there is really no controversy on it. The Bible is very clear about it. I think basically the controversy is our interpretation of what the Bible is saying. The Bible makes it clear that tithing is a Jewish practice. It's something that came from the whole system of Jewish practice that came from the Mosaic law and so on. Along with tithing, we also have the first fruit, we have the Passover celebrations, we have circumcision, we have offering of burnt offerings, sin offerings, and so on. So the main point is this: whoever wants to offer a tithe should be ready also to go along and do every other Jewish practice. That's just the discussion there. Now, I could shed more light on this subject if you okay. Now, the thing now is this: the main controversy has been that by God's mercy and His providence, He has given somebody a voice to be able to tell the world, or to tell Nigerians about the falsehood of practicing, of giving a tithe today. The young man called Freeze recently began to speak against it publicly, and there have been a lot of reactions to it. And surprisingly, pastors that normally would not speak when they are criticized are speaking. We have had responses from Adeboye, we have had from Oyedepo, we have had from Ashimolowo just recently, we have had from Adefarasi, from Apostle Suleiman, so many of them, you know. So it shows clearly that there is a the people are hearing about this and so on, and it's important that we make the position on tithe clear. Now, tithing is not a Christian practice; it's a Jewish practice. It was instituted by God in the Bible as provision for the ecclesiastic system in the Jews in those days. It's just like in any system where you have a worshiping people who worship Jehovah in those days. God said that, okay, those people who are leading the worship, the priests and the Levites, should be provided for through the tithes. So in those days, the people will go to the farm, they will work the farm, they will they will get their crops and get their seeds and everything from the farm. But the leaders, the people who were leading worship, were not going to the farm. So when they bring, okay, so the system in those days, we had the Jews had this system where they had their ecclesiastic, that's their pastors, their leaders in worship, who earned their living from the tithes. In fact, in Numbers, if I'm not correct, yes, now in Numbers chapter 11, God makes it abundantly clear that He had provided the Jews, the Levites and the priests, with the tithe, that the tithe will be their sustenance. In our own parlance now, the tithe will be their provision or their salary. So there's no argument about it at all. However, I believe through the ages, because Christianity is 2,000 years ago, years old, and after the first century, that's the first 100 years of Christianity, we began to have the influence of the papal influence on Christianity generally. That's to say, the Christianity that came from Rome. Peter had migrated to Rome at some point, and the central, okay, Rome was the center of the world then, was the capital of the advanced world then, and it made sense that Christianity will come from there. Now, the papal system also came from Rome, and they became the head of the church. About that time, they began to suggest that in just as we have it in the Old Testament, people could give 10% of their agrarian produce to the church, and that was practiced for a while, and then it continued, I think, probably even into the medieval times. But surprisingly, the Catholic Church that started tithing today do not emphasize it, even though they do practice it, as from what I learned, but they do not emphasize. I was born a Catholic, and I never heard anybody ask anybody to give a tithe. You know, the Protestant churches that came out of the Catholic Church at some point also began to collect 10% from people, insisting that people could give a tithe. At some point, it wasn't something they insisted on. It was more or less like a suggestion, saying, okay, there's a gathering of God's people, and the pastors have to be provided for. Why don't we give 10% of our income to support those people? And that was how the whole idea started. But you know, when something good comes and people are earning from it, there's a tendency for that thing now to become something like a law. Yeah, and so that is why by the time we're entering into the 20th century and into the 21st century, the tithing had become something like a law. When I became a Christian in 1998, I remember that the person who spoke to me about Christianity, because I didn't know anything, he told me that there are some things that were very vital. He said you have to pray, you have to go to church, and lastly he also mentioned that you have to tithe. So by that time, tithing had become more or less like a law. However, for me personally, by the year 2013, I had to begin to investigate what the tithe was all about. And by the time I checked through the whole Bible, I found out that there was no such thing. There was no demand on Christians to give a tithe. It's clear, if we're going to have to give 10% of our salaries or 10% of whatever we earn, then we're going to have to also practice every other Jewish practice. But because we are not, as Christians, we're not bound to keep the Jewish law, at the same time we're not bound to give a tithe. So what our Freeze is doing is, by the mercies of God, and even though he's not a trained minister, a lot of them have held it against him that he's not a pastor. Yes, even though he's not a trained minister, the truth of the matter is that when God begins to do a thing, when he begins to do a revival, he doesn't use the establishment. He doesn't use this thing. He usually uses the down and cast. Jesus was saying once to the Pharisees, he says that if those people do not offer him praise, then he's going to cause for stones and rocks to offer him praise. And we have also seen a situation where when the prophets who were supposed to speak the truth to a nation were not doing it, like Balaam, when he refused to do it, God used a donkey to rebuke the mad prophet. So if Freeze today is rebuking pastors and speaking against them, it is ordained of God, because that's God's system. It has always been that's the way God does his thing. The Bible talks about in Solomon, there was a time in the days of Solomon when Solomon rebelled against God. He was put in there. Solomon was the son of David, and David is not a small person as far as Bible characters are concerned. So Solomon was a son of David, but he sinned against God, he rebelled against God, and as punishment against his rebellion, God raised up people against him. So God always raises up people against a system that is rebellious against him. Tithing is a rebellious practice. It doesn't have any place in Christianity. However, and I must note this, however, it is God's desire that his work be provided for. And it is incumbent on Christians, and I'm talking about born-again Christians, to give a part of their income to wherever they fellowship, whether it's a church or a fellowship, as a support for it, so that the people who are working either full-time or part-time will have provision. However, even in that, even though God requires that, it's a demand on us, God never said it must be a 10%. Rather, what he said in 2 Corinthians chapter 9 verse 6, he said it must be a free will offering. There must be no coercion. The minute your giving becomes coercive and somebody is putting a demand on you or trying to press a cost on you and telling you that if you do not give, then something evil is going to happen to you, then that type of giving is become coercion, and that is not God's will for us as people of God.
I was going to ask you,
yes,
your reaction to the reaction of pastors to this. Some have placed courses on anybody who doesn't tithe.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you
well, I think it is laughable. But although for how many years now? This 2017. I've not tithed since March 2013. When I got my salary for March 2013, I didn't give anybody a tithe. Okay. Now between March and the 2013 and the close of March to December 2013, it was hell personally for me. Why? Because it was a deliverance process for me personally. It wasn't easy, and most of the time what you're going to hear is people will be saying you're cursed, people will be saying you're going to lose your job, people will be saying all sorts of things. Later that year, my child developed asthma and he was sick, and there was a tendency for me to think that my child was being afflicted because I did not tithe. But it was also very easy for me to take care of that lousy kind of thinking. Why? Because another child was sick when I was tithing. So I mean, I said, okay, fine, I'm being devoured when I was tithing, I'm being devoured when I'm not tithing. Apparently tithing has nothing to do with a sick child. You know, tithing has nothing to do with whatever evil that comes our way. As Christians, our lives are dictated by God. They are ordered by God. It's not something that it's not what you give that determines what you get. We're children of God, and if we are children, I have children, I cannot base my provision for my children based on what they're doing to me. My children can do evil to me, but as their father, it is my consistent responsibility to provide for them. It's my responsibility to make sure that things work out for them. They are provided for, and that. So the important thing here is not a giving of tithe or not giving of tithe. The important thing here is this: are people children of God? The minute they are children of God, God takes care of everything. At some point, children grow to a point of maturity and they realize that, okay, now we're earning some money and we must begin to provide for our parents. And so children of God also get to some point and they realize that, okay, what we're earning, we can give to support the church. We can give to support God's people, but it must never come by coercion. It's madness. I think it's foolishness. I'm trying to constrain my words to use so that I mean, a lot of people revere this man so that I don't get on their nerves. But it's just foolishness. Children of God are children of God. The children of Israel were those who were under either when they obeyed the law, they receive a blessing. When they disobey the law, they get a curse. That is Deuteronomy 28. That was based on the old law. The children of God are blessed. Ephesians chapter 1 verse 3 says, we are seated with Christ in heavenly places. Our sitting with Christ is not based on giving of tithe or not giving of tithe. It is based on the fact that we are God's people, we are elects of Him, we are chosen by Him, and and the very fact that we are God's people, we are God's children, we have a blessing. There are no curses on God's children. And you see, when people begin to talk, they begin to talk about the fact that their Christianity, because my Christianity doesn't have any cost. If their Christianity contains curses and blessings, then there's a problem with that Christianity. You should hold that Christianity to question, because a Christianity that is saying, okay, when the Christianity that is saying that when you obey, then you get a blessing, and when you disobey, then you get a curse, that Christianity should be held suspect. And for me, that's one of the reasons why I do not go to these churches, because I mean, after a whole 6-day work, I labor myself at work, and then I come to church on Sunday and somebody is threatening me with curses. I mean, that person is not well. You know, so please, I'm using this opportunity. There's nobody that is incumbent upon to give any tithe to anybody. Okay? Whatever you earn at your own time, look at your surrounding. Okay? There are some people who probably, and they are God's people. Maybe they are not committed in a church yet, but they see, number one, maybe the immediate need in their life is their parents. They need to provide for their parents. They should do that. Some other people look around and they say, okay, there are needs. There are children that are off school. In fact, in Nigeria right now, we have an epidemic. If every working class family can be committed to sponsoring just one child, one orphan in school from primary to the university. And that's what one thing my family is doing. When we stopped tithing, we started doing that. You know, just we're taking one child and we're sending that child to school. The child, we saw him through primary school. Now he's in secondary school, and by God's grace, we'll see him through university. If every working class family can do that, at some point, illiteracy is going to be wiped out in this country, and nobody is going to stand on his pulpit and begin to rain curses on God's people. There's no cause. There's no such thing. And then again, I must say this, and I think the public are noticing it. Every person who has responded to freeze, every one of them who have responded to freeze, have not raised one single scripture to refute his position. One single scripture. All of them have played on sentiments. They have played on emotionalism. They have played on blackmail. And there's, I mean, it's so clear. When I stopped tithing in 2013, I met with my pastor, Pastor Shola Kolade of Vibrant Church, Mokola, Ibadan. And, you know, I spoke with him. And in the one or two times that we discussed this, eventually led to my leaving the church. And I'm taking my family out of the place. When I spoke to him, Shola Kolade is different from all the other people. He's a very intelligent person. He's very humble, very straight-headed, you know, and he's also a teacher of the word. But even Shola Kolade could not raise a single scripture to refute my position. I have had email interaction with him in which we discussed this thing, and I showed him from scripture that this thing is not biblical, and even himself would not raise one scripture to refute it. Now, what is the problem with either Shola Kolade and the other system? It is the fact that the church has inherited a tradition that it is finding very difficult to discard. If tithing is taken away from churches today, all those churches that meet on Sunday will close up. All of them. Every one of them, they will shut down. And you know what? I think they should shut down, because Nigeria, we're having a problem in this country. Every corner, in every square mile in this country, you have almost 10 churches. What is wrong with us? Are we mad? In this country where we need people to be thinking, where we need people to be productive, where we need people to begin to do, work. There is no system, there is no country that thrives on religion. It is not done anywhere. And if you go to Denmark, you go to Japan, you go to the US, these countries are raging atheist countries. They don't believe in God. But these countries believe in work. It is work that produces wealth. It is work that produces money. And if people don't work, if people continue to hold Sunday morning prayer meetings, not Sunday morning now, Monday morning. On Monday morning, you see churches filled to the brink. People are going to pray. God will not answer their prayers. It's not possible. You pray against enemies. You pray against this. You say somebody should fall down and die, and you're not doing what you're supposed to do. It's madness. Okay? So please, it's a very simple thing. There's no fight about it. There's no controversy. And if there is a controversy, it is God that has a controversy with the nations, because he has said it in Jeremiah that he has a controversy with the nations. He has a controversy with tithes. The tithe is easy money. And you know where this tithe comes from? You know where it comes from? Okay, I'll tell you. It's very simple. In Ibadan, where I come from, there's a church. I won't mention the name now. There's a church at the junction of Ojunri Bodija, close to Bodija Market. That church is a very large church. It has bought the factory opposite it, and every other land. In fact, what churches do now, I don't know for Lagos, but in Ibadan, they buy property. They buy all the land around them. Why? Because easy money is coming to them. How does this easy money come? It is a very simple thing. There's no mathematics about it. It's not God that is sending the money. It's just simple common sense. This is where it comes from. Nigeria is a country that thrives on oil money. We're a country that we earn a lot of money from crude oil. When this crude oil comes in, when this money comes into government coffers, government has committed itself to its workers, and so it gives them monthly salaries. Are you following me? Okay, so government pays everybody monthly salary, and unfortunately, from what we have learned, many government institutions are not even working as they should. But government is still committed to paying salary, and God bless our government for doing it. Okay, so they pay salary. Now, everybody gets their salary, and at the end of the month, they take what? 10% out of this salary and give it to where? To the church. So at the end of the day, you see a direct, in fact, it's almost direct, from crude oil to the church. From crude oil to the church. The churches are doing nothing to earn this money. They are not adding value to society. They are not doing anything but just collecting money directly from their members who are being paid by government. And this money that they are collecting, they now use it to buy properties all over the place. They use it to, and of course that's where you begin to have the private jet thing and all these silly things that go on around. Now, a country that is working, will probably have its citizens earning a salary, all right. But at the same time, you will also find out that the people are enlightened enough to use their resources for other things. Tithing is not Christian. It is Jewish. However, God expects that Christians, God's people who are committed to him, should give an amount, whatever amount. It could be 10 naira, 200, 2,000, whatever you want to give. Give it, let it be what you can consistently give to your church to support your church. And the minute you find out that they are not using your money properly, hold them accountable, or probably stop giving your money. But nobody is obliged to give anybody 10% anyway.